Welcome back to our journey back in time where we rummage through old films to contemplate real lives. In 1991, when the movie New Jack City officially premiered, it was not merely a cinematic work, it was a visceral punch to the social reality of America at that time, with its haunting story of Nino Brown's drug empire and the fierce war on violence. Stained streets, the film created a box office fever and became a profound cultural mark of the 90s. But when the screen fades to black, those classic characters leave behind flesh and blood actors with very distinct fates. 34 years have passed, and time, like a ruthless sculptor, has carved indelible marks onto their lives. Some have swum upstream to become television icons, some had to fight illness in the shadows, and others have quietly stopped their journey, leaving behind infinite regret. Today, let us quiet our hearts to look back at the tumultuous journey of the first 5 faces in the cast who created the soul of New Jack City. ICET as SCOTTYAPPLETON. In New Jack City, the character Scotty Appleton is not the typical stoic cop we often see. Ice-T brought a vibrant and angry energy to this role, with eyes that carried the breath of the street and the fierceness of a man ready to nurture the demons within to enforce justice. At 33, Ice-T made Ice-T. Audiences believe he was born for this role. However, few suspected that right after that aura of glory, his career almost crumbled just as it had begun. Just a year after this film's success, his song Cop Killer shocked the entire United States, making him the center of criticism from politicians to the president. His recording contract was canceled, his music was banned from the airwaves, and Hollywood nearly slammed the door in his face. It seemed that Scotty Appleton would be his first and last major role, but Ice-T refused to surrender to fate. He persisted in proving his talent. Through small roles, and destiny finally smiled when it handed him the golden opportunity with Law Order SVU. It is a fascinating paradox of life. The man once considered an enemy of the police became Fin Tutuola, one of the most beloved detectives in American television history. Yet peace never came easily to him. Behind his brilliant career were rumors surrounding his marriage to Coco Austin, fractures in his relationship with his children, and whispers of arrogance. But Ice-T stood firm in the eye of the storm, turning every criticism into motivation to survive. Today at 67, Ice-T is still diligently contributing, possessing an estimated net worth of $65 million a living, testament to the bravery of a man who rose from the streets and never bowed to adversity. Bill Cobbs as the Old Man. Amidst the chaos of guns and drugs in New Jack City, Bill Cobb's character, the Old Man, appears as a poignant low note. He sought neither power nor money, but was merely a weary witness to the devastation of methamphetamine on the neighborhood he loved. Although the role did not bring major awards, the silence and depth in Bill Cobb's eyes touched the hearts of the audience, showing why Hollywood always sought him out when they needed dignity and experience. But behind that calmness was a career full of thorns and the suppression of prejudice. Hollywood rarely gave Bill Cobbs the chance to be the brightest star. Despite possessing undeniable talent seen in works like The Hudsucker Proxy or The Bodyguard, casting directors often pushed him to the background, framing him in the image of a wise but faded old man. The artist's pain piled up when he was once blacklisted simply for refusing a role that degraded the dignity of black people. For many years his phone rarely rang, and if it did, it was for small, sporadic roles. But Bill Cobbs never gave up. He turned every rejection into strength, diligently building a cinematic legacy of over 200 films, using his quiet presence to affirm his value. The connection between the role and his life is worth pondering. Like the Old Man, resiliently clinging to the ruined neighborhood, Bill Cobbs resiliently clung to a harsh Hollywood with his dignity intact. He lived and contributed ceaselessly, becoming a familiar face whose name audiences might not remember but whose face they could never forget. However, that enduring and inspiring journey had to stop. In 2024, Bill Cobbs passed away at the age of 90. His departure left a large void regarding a generation of great character actors, those who spent their entire lives serving as the solid foundation for cinematic art to shine. Michael. Michelle as Selena. In the violent underworld of Nino Brown, Selena, played by Michael Michele, appeared as a flower that was brilliant but full of thorns. Her elegant, sophisticated beauty was the perfect contrast to the surrounding brutality representing the deadly allure of power. At 25, this role was expected to be a launchpad propelling Michael Michele to A-list stardom. However, reality was harsher than she imagined. Instead of long red carpets, her career was marked by obstacles and the cruel prejudices of the entertainment industry. Right from the start of her career, Michael Michele faced storms when she was fired from Eddie Murphy's film Harlem Nights, leading to a noisy lawsuit regarding harassment. Although the incident ended quietly, that scar made Hollywood wary of her. She was pushed into supporting roles and TV projects that bloomed early and faded fast, like ER or Dynasty, where her talent did not have enough ground to flourish. Not only facing professional pressure, Michael also had to fight a silent battle with polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, a condition causing weight gain and acne, death sentences for an actress's appearance. While her male colleagues aged and were still respected, she was scrutinized strictly for her looks, eroding her confidence. Nevertheless, the resilience of the Selena of yesteryear still burned within her. Michael. Michelle did not let failures or illness define her life. She learned to balance fame and real life, seeking new opportunities in commercials and smaller but suitable roles. Today at 59, Michael Michele continues her acting career with a poised and confident demeanor. With a net worth of $5 million, her journey is proof of the relentless effort of a woman who dared to stand up after stumbling to hold on to her passion for art. Bill Nunn as Do Man. Bill Nunn turned the role of the stuttering henchman Man into one of the most memorable supporting characters in New Jack City. Although he didn't have much screen time and his look lacked glamour with his hesitant voice and peculiar gestures, he successfully portrayed a henchman who was both scary and somewhat pitifully naive. Before that, Bill Nunn had created the icon Radio Raheem in Do the Right Thing, but that very success inadvertently imprisoned him in a cage of prejudice. Hollywood seemed to only see him as large, menacing, or simple-minded black men, ignoring the rich inner depth of this artist. Throughout his career, Bill Nunn yearned for multi-dimensional, more complex roles. But what he received were often disjointed pieces in films like Sister Act or Spider-Man. Behind the rough exterior on screen was a very different Bill Nunn, sensitive, humorous, and full of concern. He silently fought chronic depression, a pain he rarely shared with anyone. Instead of complaining, he poured his heart into contributing to the Pittsburgh community, supporting youth programs and theater, finding peace in uplifting the younger generation. Bill Nunn's life was a sad ballad about talent not being fully understood. In his final years, he faced his biggest challenge, leukemia. He chose silence, hiding his illness to keep his dignity and strong image intact in the public eye. He continued to work to contribute until his strength was exhausted, and then that journey stopped abruptly in 2016. Bill Nunn passed away at the age of 62, leaving shock for fans and colleagues, those who had no idea about the physical pain he had quietly endured for a long time. Jake LaMotta as gangster. There is a moment in New Jack City where the camera pans across the steady, cold gaze of an old gangster. That was not acting, but the presence of the legendary Jake LaMotta, the real-life Bronx Bull. He appeared in the film not to recreate himself, but to inject into the work a dose of authentic brutality. Jake LaMotta's life was inherently a movie more dramatic than any script, once serving as the inspiration for the masterpiece Raging Bull. That helped Robert De Niro win an Oscar. But ironically, the success of the movie about his life pushed the real Jake LaMotta into the shadows of comparison and oblivion. After the glory of his boxing career, Jake struggled to find a foothold in Hollywood. But a past full of violence, Prison time and mafia ties became a major barrier. He struggled with small cameo roles appearing in comedy clubs or independent films just to make a living and regain a bit of a sense of respect. Consecutive broken marriages, scandals, and regret over past mistakes always haunted him like a ghost. The public remembered his violence more than his acting talent, and his role in New Jack City when he was 69 served as a bitter reminder of a lost golden age. The similarity between the gangster role and Jake LaMotta's real life was a haunting reflection. He lived his whole life, fought and paid the price with his own blood and tears, just like the characters in the underworld he once encountered. He lived lingeringly with memories, the scars of a lonely old warrior. Finally, the bell ending. The match of his life rang. Jake LaMotta passed away in 2017 due to complications from pneumonia at the age of 95. He departed carrying the story of a flawed legend, a human being who fought until his last breath to seek salvation for his soul. Russell Wong as Park. The character Park in New Jack City was a man of few words, but his presence with a calm gaze and precise moves created an irresistible allure for Russell Wong. This role was a rare breakthrough for Asian actors in the mainstream crime genre at the time. However, Russell's career was a ceaseless struggle with the cliched stereotypes of 90s Hollywood directors usually only wanted him to play martial arts masters, gangsters, or silent villains, ignoring his ability to act with inner depth. Russell bravely refused roles that insulted his identity, even though the price to pay was a precarious career and missed opportunities. Brief success. With the series Vanishing Son once kindled hope for a change, but the show's early cancellation extinguished his momentum. After marital breakdowns and the indifference of the cinema capital, Russell chose to retreat to a quieter life. Today, at 62, he lives simply between Los Angeles and Asia, teaching martial arts and photography. Though he did not become a global superstar as expected, Russell Wong is still remembered as a proud pioneer who dared to say no to stereotyping to preserve his dignity. Mario Van Peebles as Detective Stone. Mario Van Peebles did not just appear in the film as the cold Detective Stone, he was also the captain steering the ship of New Jack City as the director. This was a huge gamble, and Mario won when he turned a rough crime script into a cultural phenomenon, proving that a young black director could helm a Hollywood blockbuster. But that success came with a high price. Instead of being given the red carpet, Mario realized Hollywood still had too many barriers. His subsequent ambitious films like Posse or Panther both stumbled upon the cold shoulder of critics or political interference, pushing him into a vicious cycle of seeking funding. As the son of the legendary Melvin Van Peebles, Mario carried the burden of a massive legacy on his shoulders. He was always torn between living up to his father's revolutionary standards and being accused of riding his family's coattails. Work pressure and the injustice of the system sometimes drowned him in depression, making him once want to leave it all behind to find peace in the jungles of Costa Rica. But after all, Mario still stood firm as an artistic warrior. Today, at 68, he possesses a net worth of $12 million, continuing to make films and inspire living proof that true talent will always find a way to shine, no matter how suppressed. Nick Ashford as Reverend Oates. Amidst the storm of violence in the film, Reverend Oates appeared as spiritual medicine, a gentle but firm voice bringing moral clarity. Nick Ashford, who played that pastor, was in real life a Motown music legend, the author of immortal love songs like Ain't No Mountain High Enough. But ironically, the man who wrote those happy melodies had to taste the most tragic low notes of life. The cruel music industry once prioritized the singer, while forgetting the songwriter, and a financial fraud in the 70s once pushed him into homelessness, forcing him to live in a church basement while his songs played all over the world. The 80s continued to challenge Nick with a battle against drugs and family fractures due to constant touring. Even so, he always maintained a gentle, smile, and incredible resilience, overcoming storms with his wife Valerie Simpson to become a symbol of enduring love in the art world. But then the greatest tragedy struck when throat cancer attacked, taking away his voice, the artist's most precious asset. The journey of that benevolent pastor. Closed in 2011, Nick Ashford passed away at the age of 69, leaving behind a massive musical legacy and regret for a beautiful soul who dedicated himself until his last breath. Chris Rock as Pookie. Before becoming one of the world's greatest comedians, Chris Rock left an indelible mark on New Jack City with the role of Pookie, an addict who was both funny and tragic. Pookie was the role that proved to the world that Chris Rock knew not only how to crack jokes, but also possessed psychological depth and naked vulnerability. But few know that this thorniness was forged from his own scarred past. Born in Brooklyn, Chris carried the pain of racism and school bullying, psychological traumas that nurtured paranoia and insecurity in him throughout his adult years. Chris Rock's career is a sine wave of glory and bitterness. After years of being underrated at Saturday Night Live, the role of Pookie and later the special Bring the Pain truly brought him respect. But fame was not a healing medicine. His 18-year marriage collapsed in humiliation after he admitted to infidelity. And then the peak of the shock came in 2022, when Will Smith's slap on the Oscar stage turned Chris into the center of a global event, admitted that the incident caused panic attacks and a fear of crowds forcing him to seek therapy for 7 hours a week. Today at 60, with a net worth of $60 million, the Pookie of yesteryear has become a monument, but his eyes still hint at the sadness of a man who has tasted enough of the bitterness of laughter and tears. Judd Nelson as Nick Peretti. In New Jack City, Nick Peretti was a reckless, sarcastic, and unpredictable cop who formed a perfect duo with Scotty Appleton. For Judd Nelson, this role was an opportunity to escape the shadow of an 80s teen idol and prove his ability to act in grittier roles. However, Hollywood is a ruthless machine, especially to stars who refuse to follow the mold. After brilliant success with the Brat Pack in The Breakfast Club, Judd Nelson's career fell into crisis when film studios refused to let him grow up. The 90s exposed all of Judd's weaknesses. On set, he gained a reputation for being difficult to work with and erratic. The demons in his soul, exhaustion, and wrong decisions suffocated his talent, leading to hospitalizations for nervous breakdowns. The press that once hailed him now portrayed him as a troubled actor. Even so, Judd Nelson found peace in his own way. He continued to work persistently through television roles and voice acting, but chose to live a reclusive life, staying away from the frivolous aura of Los Angeles. At 66, Judd Nelson possesses a modest net worth of about $4 million, living a quiet life like a rebel who found serenity after passing through the storms of youth.